introduce our President and CEO, Marquise Harris Dawson. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Karen will be moderating today. A couple things, we said it in the beginning, but I just want to reiterate, we got folks in the overflow room, so this room is packed, there's a room in the back. I like to do a little trick, just so they don't feel too bad. If you can get your pipes going this early in the meeting, let's just give them a big hello and wave. Where's the camera? Oh, the camera's right there. All right, let's, hold on, we gotta hear you. So, we just got to make sure during the meeting they never feel left out. We're very happy today to host our city attorney-elect, City Attorney Mike Feuer, who is no stranger to us here at the Community Coalition. Let's give him a big round of applause. We're also happy to give a shout out to the co-sponsors for this event, the organizations who came together, put this on. We're part of the group that called you and helped get this all paid for and happening. We have the Avalon Carver Community Center, People's Coordinated Services, Watts Health, South Central Prevention Coalition, MJB Transitional Recovery, and Volunteers of America. Let's give them a big round of applause. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. It was better over there? I'll shout. All right, so I want to take some of you all through some history that I see some people in the audience were here for this history, even though I wasn't. Folks remember, how many folks were around when the Community Coalition started in 1990? All right, we got some charter members here, right? So remember in 1990, we were responding to the crack cocaine epidemic here in South Los Angeles. The crack cocaine epidemic hit very hard in this community. Is that Mr. Patton? It's not. It's good to see you, Mr. Patton. It's been a minute. Welcome. We know that the crack cocaine epidemic hit very hard, combined with the loss of industrial jobs, mostly on the east side, in all the factories. Folks lost their jobs and our community began to be torn apart. Especially because the main way that the government responded to the crack cocaine epidemic and the joblessness that came at the same time was through a policy that we call mass incarceration. So creating more and more ways to lock people up, creating longer sentences, harsher sentences, and using police and arrest as the main way to confront the issue. And folks who got together and started the Community Coalition knew that that wasn't going to work, that was going to tear our families apart, it was going to cause all kinds of damage in our community and make the problems that we were facing even worse rather than better. So the organization formed to fight the social and economic conditions that that we feel created the crack cocaine epidemic and to confront the joblessness that came from the closure of the factories and the union jobs here in South Los Angeles. Over the last 23 years, we've made some progress. We've gotten a few things done. Some of you were here for the Rebuild South LA Without Liquor Stores campaign. And so you all were successful in reducing the amount of liquor stores in South LA by over 20%. I think you should give yourselves a round of applause for that. Also associated with that was your theory all along, the theory that neighbors put forward was that you could, if you just kept arresting people and giving people harsher and harsher sentences, the problem would never go away. They would just be replaced by more people who needed to eat and have a place to live and get their needs met. But if we changed the landscape, if we made the landscape a place where it wasn't conducive to the kinds of activities that people were being arrested for, that folks would be more likely to stop. And sure enough, every place that you all closed a liquor store, we saw violent crime calls decrease within a half mile of that address. We also the Prevention Network worked to remove the ban on public housing for those who had a drug felony. Remember that? So again, what does the government do? First they're locking people up that probably shouldn't be locked up. Then when you get out, they make it so you can't get on your feet, right? And then what ends up happening? You end up back in the underground economy again, and it creates a vicious cycle. So we were able to fix a little bit of that. Also, even though they do the vast amount of the work created by mass incarceration, because you just throw people in jail, the implications to that. One of the implications is that they have children, and the children have to be taken care of. The mass majority of those children don't go into stranger care, they go into family care. They stay with grandmothers and aunts and uncles, and a lot of you who are members of the coalition have been a part of the campaign to win services for relative caregivers. We still got a way to go, but we've gotten some work done on that. That's a direct impact of the war on drugs in this community. We also have our youth program, which is the heart and soul of the organization, which has won millions and millions of dollars for our schools and improved the quality of education. Right now, we're very proud, just down the street, we got 110 kids in the Community Coalition CDF Freedom School. Training up young activists to continue the fight, because some of us up here are getting tired and losing our hair. So we want to replace ourselves with young activists. So we've seen millions and millions of dollars thrown into the criminal justice system, new jails everywhere, harsher sentences every time you turn around. We've also known that there's smarter, more cost-effective ways and more humane ways of addressing poverty, addiction, crime, and violence. And today you're going to hear some of those from the audience, and we'll hear some of those from our new city attorney. The city attorney has oversight over a few things that we really care about as an organization. One is code enforcement, right? So one of our problems with the liquor stores isn't that they're liquor stores per se, it's how the liquor store is run. And they're run in a way on Florence and Normandy, say, that they wouldn't be run on San Vicente and Olympic, for example, and much less San Vicente and Sunset, right? So the same rules that apply in that part of the city apply in this part of the city. It's up to the city attorney to enforce those rules. And then the city attorney can play a role in creating alternatives to incarceration, especially for minor offenses that don't impact the community in a negative way. So I'm going to stop talking now and bring up our special guest. Again, I said he's no stranger to the Community Coalition. Before going on the Los Angeles City Council, he was at Betzedek, an organization not dissimilar to the Community Coalition in that it helped working people and people who were in need of some assistance. Then he went on to the City Council where we used to have a power analysis in the meeting. Remember, Ms. Wallace? And we would put the different city council members up, and we would put the ones who were going to be with us, the ones who were in the middle, and the ones who were against us. And we were always happy because, Mike, you were always on our side. Whenever it ended up working out for you. And then from there, he went on with the State Assembly, where he served with our founder, Speaker Karen Bass. And now, with strong support from South LA, I will note, I see somebody with a vote for Mike Feuer button, ready for next time. And with strong support for South LA, he was elected to be the city attorney for the city of Los Angeles. We're happy to have him here. We want to bring him on. Let's give him a warm Community Coalition welcome.
It's not even standing room only, it's getting in the room. This is good. This is great. I'll take a second while people are getting organized.
We're on the strip. Take it off.
We're just starting. The night is young. All right. People gonna come and sit down? Yes. So folks should come and sit down. All right, Marquise, are people going to come and use these seats?
Yes, they are.
All right, good. Well, terrific. Yeah, so there are some seats over here, by the way. If people want to come in, they should be seated here. Is this working now? There we go. Okay. So those of you who are standing in back, there are seats up in front. If you want to sit down, you should do that. It is great to be here. I can't, I was walking in and I was on the phone with somebody who was saying, why are you calling me on the phone? It's the NBA Finals tonight. I don't know where your priorities are, but you're here, which is great. So let me do this. I want to introduce myself to you a little bit and talk about what it means to have a vision of a safer city, a city that's more just, a city that protects its most vulnerable and lifts up all of us. That's the vision that we should share as we talk about what it means to be the city attorney here in Los Angeles. I do want, although at the risk of alienating other people, we do have the president of the Board of Public Works with us tonight, Capri Maddox, who is here. And many, many other important people that I'm going to get in trouble if I start to call them all out. So, listen, here's the deal. Tonight, we're going to have a very direct conversation with each other. That's what we're always going to do. I want to have an opportunity to listen carefully to you. You know, I've taught at law school and the public affairs school at UCLA, and I know that for lawyers, talking way overvalued. For politicians too. Listening skills, not valued nearly enough. So tonight, I hope I can explain to you, I have to listen to you. I want to listen carefully to what you care about the most. And then my job is to make it happen. All right, so that's our deal tonight, is listen and then move forward. I'm in office to make it happen. Now tonight, as Marquise mentioned, I am the city attorney-elect. I'm not yet the city attorney. I take office on July 1st. So I can't do much in the next 10 days to change the city. But starting on July 1st, that's all I will care about, is my family and making the city a better place. As I get started here, I do want to thank, first I want to thank the coalition. What a marvelous turnout, and all of the sponsoring organizations who made this happen. So thank you for making this community even stronger every day. Now let me talk, maybe let's just get down here. Let me talk a little bit about what the city attorney does, and then talk to you about that vision I sketched out at the beginning in a little more detail. And then we'll have an opportunity for lots of questions. So first, just so you know what the city attorney does, because I'm just curious, who in this room knows what the city attorney does? Yeah, kind of what I thought. Yeah. So let's talk about what it means. City attorney writes every law in the city. The city attorney gives the agencies of the city council, and the mayor legal advice on every issue that has anything to do with law. The city attorney defends the city when the city is sued. The city attorney uses the law as a sword on behalf of people in the city, bringing folks to court, for example, a slumlord. The city attorney also prosecutes all the misdemeanors in the city of Los Angeles, and other things too. So it's got a pretty broad wingspan. And when you look at the issues that come up every day, everything from how the city should treat people who are homeless, to environmental issues, these are all city attorney issues. There's a police shooting, it's a city attorney issue. When folks are dealing with the environment or whether there's illegal dumping in your neighborhood, it's a city attorney issue. And I have a broader vision than that of the office, and we're going to get right to it. So, months ago, Marquise and the team had me here not to talk to a group, but they took me on a tour of the community for a couple hours, a little more than that. And here is what I took away from that tour. If the city attorney were doing his job properly, this playground would be safe. If the city attorney were focused on our community, this pathway to school would be safe for our kids. If the city attorney were on the ball, this prostitution we see over here that is causing a blight in our community would be gone. If the city attorney were on the job, the businesses that would choose to site in our neighborhood would be those we actually want in our community, as opposed to some of the businesses we have. That's why the city attorney's office can matter a lot. Now in my campaign, I talked a lot about the importance of neighborhoods and connecting the city attorney to neighborhoods. So I'm going to talk about neighborhoods and schools and other things I hope you care about. Let's talk about schools first, by the way. How many of you here want to see the paths that your kids or your grandkids take to school be safer? Some of you care about it? I think so. You know, the LA Times has produced a bunch of maps of schools throughout our community. And some of you may have seen those maps. They're very interesting because the maps rely on student-provided information about whether the kids feel safe or not on this street or on this street or on that street in and around a school. And you can see very clearly where kids don't feel safe. Now, one of my goals as city attorney is to work with the school district and the school police and the LAPD, and most importantly, you and parents and grandparents and kids to make those pathways safer. How can I do that? Well, one way is this, and this sort of exemplifies the issue. I was asked by a number of housing advocates to join them on a tour of a neighborhood south of downtown, maybe 2 months ago. The purpose of the tour, by the way, kind of filed this away, was to show me one foreclosed property after another with broken windows and graffiti and gang activity and a whole array of problems, and to tell me that the city has a law on the books that fines banks and other lenders that own foreclosed properties when those properties aren't being maintained. And the advocates asked me, do you know how many fines have been imposed since this law took effect? And what is the answer, do you think?
Zero.
Zero is the answer. I was standing on a street in front of one of those properties, and a minister approached me. And he said, how do you think our kids feel when they walk by this property? What do they think about their neighborhood? Do you think they have pride in where they live? Do you think they feel safe when they walk to school? That has stuck with me. And one of my jobs as city attorney is to find creative ways for us to deal with those problems. There are people in the city attorney's office, the lawyers who will work with me, whose job it is to get rid of a nuisance, including some kind of property. Those lawyers, I think, should be deployed focusing on pathways to schools, if not first, pretty close to first. Because there aren't too many things that matter more to a parent or a grandparent than making sure their kids getting to school safely. My kids went to public schools here, from kindergarten to high school. Sometimes it was dangerous at those schools and around those schools. I get it. We can do better. I intend to. Another issue that matters to me a lot is the issue of gun violence. Who here thinks that's a big issue in the city, gun violence? It's a big issue. It's not the same level of issue in each neighborhood of the city. And here's my thought. As long as any parent feels that their child can't be safe in their neighborhood because of guns, none of us is safe, and our entire city is diminished. That's what I think. You will hear from me a lot tonight about being in this together. We are in this together, and I need to express that through every bit of work that I do, and I'm trying to express it to you by being here tonight. I'm not in office yet, but I want to be here. This is the first town hall meeting I will have held since I was elected. First one, and it's here. We are a team. On gun violence, I want to create a unit in the city attorney's office that focuses on gun violence. Many of you know that I've written a number of the laws in the city designed to prevent gun violence. You can't sell high-capacity magazines, those clips that spray crowds here. I wrote that law. You can't buy more than one gun a month in the city, because if you can resell them on the street as an illegal weapons trafficker. You can't do it. You can't buy an easily concealable weapon in this city. I wrote that law too. You have to have a background check if you're selling guns. I wrote that law as well. At the state level, I wrote a law that says that from now on, new semi-automatic handguns in California, I just stood with the Attorney General of the state, Kamala Harris, to say that I wrote this law that now takes effect, according to the Attorney General, that from now on, those guns have to have a little stamp inside of them so that when there's a shooting on the street and a shell casing falls to the ground, police can tell from the shell casing who bought the gun. We need to be... I just was on a TV show on Sunday, and the reporter said to me, well, people can always circumvent these laws that you've written. And here's the true story. Places, states and cities that have had laws like this that are really enforced are safer than those that don't. That's not just me talking. That's the facts. The data shows that. So we need to have an emphasis in the city attorney's office on working with the DA to enforce our laws and the police department, and thinking of new ways to keep our neighbors and our community safer from guns. We're going to do that together. I believe in neighborhoods. There's a program in the city attorney's office that has been decimated called the Neighborhood Prosecutor Program. I want to make that program strong again. Now, to make it strong, and by the way, what does that mean, by the way? It means taking lawyers from the city attorney's office and bringing them into neighborhoods throughout Los Angeles to listen to what you care about the most, and then to say, okay, so you care about this illegal dumping? Let's do something about it. This school area isn't safe enough? I'm on the case. I'm going to figure it out. This boarded up foreclosed property isn't being maintained? Let's fix it up. This playground, this park isn't safe for our kids? That's my job. That's what a neighborhood prosecutor can do. There are only a handful now in the whole city. I want to build that up. The city attorney's budget has been cut a lot, more than other departments have. Now that I'm coming into office, we need to work together. I will need your voice heard when I try to get some funding for this neighborhood prosecutor program. We've got to be a team again, because we've got to be saying, let's focus on what matters most in our city. This is a job that really matters on my street. City council, fund it. We're going to be working on this together. Other issues I want to just mention to you. I don't want to talk very long, but I want to listen to what you have to say and then tell it like it is if I can. But I'm trying to give you a sense, and I hope I'm conveying to you as I describe these issues, this office can really matter in this community, right? Can really make a difference if we partner, if we team up, okay? So let me talk a little bit more about the criminal justice system for just a second. As I mentioned, the city attorney prosecutes all the misdemeanors in the city. You know what misdemeanor means? That those are the crimes that are the lesser crimes in the city. The penalties are lower for misdemeanors. Jackie Lacey, my friend who's a district attorney, she prosecutes felonies, the more dangerous crimes. But don't think for a second that misdemeanors don't matter. Here's a misdemeanor crime. Somebody commits an act of domestic violence and beats his spouse. That's a misdemeanor. Could be a felony, but also could be a misdemeanor here in the city. Pretty important. Someone gets drunk and drives down the street, causing danger to everybody here. Drunk driving, that's a misdemeanor. We handle that in the city attorney's office. Someone abuses a child. It depends upon what the abuse is like. The city attorney could be handling that case. These cases matter. There's a whole slew of other cases, though, that I want to talk about as well. The source of blight in the neighborhood, the person who's engaged in graffiti writing and stuff, those are misdemeanors too. I want to see the city attorney, these neighborhood prosecutors, focusing on those quality of life crimes that drag a community down. There's a theory called the broken windows theory. If people see windows are broken, they will feel it's better, that it's more likely they can get away with other crimes. If they see a neighborhood that is clean and bright and people are standing up for each other, looking out for each other, they go to a different neighborhood to commit a crime. We in this community need to have folks going to other neighborhoods, like across the country, right? So we need to make the broken windows go away. The city attorney can help do that. I want to talk to you more about that tonight. This is a very organized group. There is a sign being held that says, "You got to stop talking." Is that what it says? That's cool. That's okay. That's okay. It's listening time. So you guys have questions. I want to take your questions, but I do want to tell you how I told you it's my first town hall since I was elected on May 21st. What a special thing it is, NBA finals or no, to see a community that is this engaged. That's because this is an organized community. And you can be sure that the message of how organized this community is getting back to the city attorney's office, because we're going to work together for years to come. So let's take a few questions.
Shuffle the room a little.
Oh, okay. I'm just a guest here, so you tell me what you want to do. Now, people are looking at me to call on them. One of the nice things about being a guest here is that there's an MC to do that for us.
Right, so what we're gonna do, folks, so there's quite a few of us, and we also have a packed overflow room. So we're gonna ask if you have cards, Coco staff, if you can come and grab those cards. and we'll try to read as many as possible. And for those who want to come up and ask a question, you can go to Tyra with the green shirt. Okay, and also I will say this, if you can translate it, translator. Here we go.
Si necesitan unos audífonos para traducción, tenemos acá enfrente unos que acabamos de recibir.
So, folks, as we get in line, again, if looking at how long the line will get, there are COCO staff members who will grab your index card. But just a couple housekeeping rules so we can make sure this flows well. Please keep your question or comment to 1 minute. Jorge will time you. If we stick to this, we can get through a lot of questions. So please keep your question and comment to 1 minute. Mr. Feuer, we're asking to keep your response to 1 to 2 minutes, and that way we can get through everyone. So we'll get started now.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Wayne Dixon, and I'm here representing the formerly incarcerated Prop 36 releasees, those who were struck out, 3 strikes out, and now on 3rd strikes. And what I'm doing a re-entry program. I'm trying to help them reintegrate back into the community successfully. First and foremost, I'd like to give you this T-shirt. Our program is Fair Chance Project.
Thank you.
Fair Chance Project, keep that on your mind. Now, what I want to detail, we have a program called Brush of Kindness. It's like a give back notion where formerly incarcerated men and women come together. We volunteer 1 day a month to give back. We volunteer handyman service work. We clean up, do minor repairs on senior citizens, low income, or disabled persons' homes that's unable to do it themselves. We freely do it, and it's been a job of me trying to get a hold of materials to do these jobs and commute these individuals to certain jobs. The last job we did on 92nd and McKinley at Mama Hill's house, we painted, cedar garden, put a gazebo up, free, no charge. But getting the material to do the job was a problem. We want to keep these formerly incarcerated men and women active, giving back to the community, serving the community, to keeping their self-esteem up, right, by doing something free. So I would like to get your support and see if we can kind of like collaborate, and the things that we be needing, we might need to go to Home Depot, or somewhere and get the things we need. If you can help us with that effort, it would be much appreciated.
Can I ask you a question, by the way, to you? The questions can take less than a minute. It's okay, I can ask you a question. Do you get donations ever from these organizations, or do you always just go out and buy stuff?
No, we get donations, small donations, not large donations. We're small grassroots community organizations. So
Yeah. So well, once I'm in office, let's see if there's a way for us to help try to find. I think there may be more donations out there that might be available for this. When you clean up a house like you just did and spruce it up, how much money did you spend that weekend? Do you know?
We spun on paints, brushes, sponge brushes, rollers, sandpapers. We spun over $300.
Okay, there might be some ways for us to work together. Let me look into it after moments. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, my name is Sonny Brewer. I'm the organizer for a new way of life community project, all of us singing. My statement, felony convictions are actually down in Los Angeles County, but there has been an increase in the number of people incarcerated in county jail for possession of marijuana and violations of city ordinance and failure to appear violations. They're all non-violent, non-serious offenses, yet we spend millions of tax dollars per year to prosecute and incarcerate people for minor offenses. For example, it is common for people to spend days in jail because of their inability to pay a traffic ticket. This is not only waste money, but it disrupts the individual's life. People lose their jobs. And so, what plans do you have, if any, to reform how the city prosecutor misdemeanors, the city prosecutes misdemeanors and infractions and reduce the waste we spend on incarceration?
Good question. Okay. So let me just say, the people heard the question.
Yeah.
It isn't just about spending less money on incarceration either, by the way. I just had a meeting with a team of people working with me on criminal justice issues. And I said to them, you know, the way to measure the success of what we do is not our conviction rates. The question is, are we solving a problem in the neighborhood the most effective way we can? Some low-level crime is crime that we think doesn't have a victim in particular, but it offends a community. I'm interested in something called restorative justice. You know what that means? The idea is trying to find as many ways as possible to say if there's been an offense committed in the community, let's try to find ways for the offender to help make good the problem he or she has caused. And let's try to find some services so this person is much less likely to offend in the future. We do not have enough jail space. And there's been a change in state law that will send many low-level offenders who used to serve in state prison, prospectively they'll be serving in county jails, which is fine, except that it means that there is more of a premium on county jail space. Our job is to say, what's the most effective way to tackle the crime once it's happened? For some people, there's going to be time in jail. Let me just say, for someone who is a serious domestic violence committer, for example, someone who does that needs to do more than just do community service. On the other hand, there are others, especially youthful offenders, it's a first-time offense. The best way to handle their situation may be to divert them from the justice system altogether and go to a program that's going to make them go on the straight and narrow. So I want to look very carefully at the choices we make as prosecutors and decide what the most effective way to solve the community safety problem is. We are going to make the community safer, there is no question. But there's some new ways to do that that aren't just throwing people in jail that we'll look at. Fair enough? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
My speak Spanish.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay.
hello. My name is Alfonso Aguilar, and I am a sophomore at Fremont High School. I am concerned about how we are treated by the police department and our schools. I, along with other students, parents, and community members, have come together to stop truancy sweeps and suspensions for willful fines at LAUSD schools. But our school continues to feel more like jails and less like school because of the number of police on campus. When we walk off campus, we are often targeted by police because of the color of our skin and because of where we live. I have been stopped by police, questioned, and patted down just because of what I was wearing and I was in a certain neighborhood. Sometimes kids are put in gang activists and they're not even in a gang. So you will be the attorney for Los Angeles Police Department, so I have two questions for you. Number one is, how can you improve the way police treat young people in South LA? And are you willing to look at whether the city should continue to use the gang database and gang injections to address crimes?
Excuse me, you have this for another? Alfonso. So Alfonso's question was like an essay exam. Can I have more than 1 minute to answer it? Is that okay? All right. So Alfonso, what grade are you in?
I'm going into the junior year.
Very good. Okay. So my kid's a little tiny bit older than you are. So here's the thing. First, I want to go through several things that Alfonso told us. First, he goes to Fremont. When I talked earlier about those maps that show danger areas around schools, I'm thinking about Fremont's map. I have Fremont's map in my head right now. And let me just say, so I want to ask you some questions as we talk about this. I'll get to some of your questions, but I have questions for you. So I know from student surveys that kids like you submitted that most students do not feel safe walking to school in Fremont. I know this, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so if you were me, knowing that students don't feel safe even walking to school, something that could deter them from even going to school because they don't feel safe, what do you think I should do about that?
Well, yes, I do. You know, the police are important in this role, yet some students don't feel like going to school because they don't feel safe around police as well. Because I've been stopped 4 or 5 times for no reason just because of what I was wearing. So I didn't feel safe going to school.
So Alfonso, if it isn't the police who will make you feel safe in the neighborhood, do you want me to ask you some questions too? Because I want to learn from you.
Go for it.
All right. So if it isn't police that'll make you feel safer, and I want you to feel safe on the way to school, what should I do instead?
Well, like I said, the police are important, but we should have police not criminalize us just because of skin color and because
Right.
of what we're wearing.
Let's agree. Okay, so let's talk about that. Was one of your questions: is how do we work with the police to make them respect you more?
Yes.
Right. So I want to ask the group a question for a second. So the LAPD has been through a lot of reform over the years. How many of you in the room, I'm just eager to know, feel that the police department, I see it, that's okay. How many people feel that the LAPD is more responsive to you now than it was 10 years ago? Better?
Yeah.
Okay, so how many people here thinks it's not any more responsive than it used to be? How many people agree with Alfonso when he says that because of the color of my skin, I don't think I'm as respected as I should be by the police? Who believes that? How many people, who here thinks that they are respected by the police? Who thinks that? Okay, all right, well listen, one reason I'm here, I told you is to listen, so this is important for me. So as the city attorney, one thing I can do is to work with the police chief and others in the department to talk about ways that communities can feel safer and to reduce the number of times that law enforcement might be involved in a problem and make it worse. Because that causes the city liability. Like, give me a chance to be in the room to have that discussion. So that's one thing that I do care about a lot. One more question for you, Alfonso. So, truancy. Now, I don't think anybody here likes the idea of a kid being truant. Right? It's not good for the student. Because our goal should be that every student graduates, right?
Right.
So, Alfonso, can I gotta keep asking questions. Okay? You're gonna give me a test, I'll give you a test too. So, Alfonso, what would be the most effective way for me to help have students be truant less?
Well, something you could do is because some people, like some truancy that people got was just because they were late to school. So instead of giving that student that truancy, you could talk to him and tell him why was he late to school and try to figure out a way that the kid will get there earlier and on time.
Good. So Alfonso, you should run for city council for one thing. And we can say, so I didn't go to the next question here. Regarding truancy, to punish people first because they're truant makes it less likely they're going to get to school, right? So while it's true that there may be a time when someone who's truant deserves punishment, that should be our last resort, not our first resort. But we cannot just let kids be truant. That is not good for anybody. So as the city attorney, one thing I want to do is to listen to kids like Alfonso and parents and see if we can find other ways to make truancy happen less. I just had a meeting right before I came here, and the topic of the meeting was how to make schools safer, and the first point was what to do about the neighborhoods around schools so kids feel safe, and the second topic was how to do more effective work to keep kids from being truant. So this is exactly something I care about a lot, and I'm just curious, from the parent, who here is a grandparent of a kid in school who cares for the child? Okay, so if you're a grandparent caring for a child, and that kid is truant, we need your help. We have to be a team in this. And that's Alfonso's point, I think. Alfonso says, you got to listen to the student, explain why he was truant, and we should be bringing in the parents and the grandparents into the conversation. People agree with that?
Yeah.
All right.
That's right.
So, Alfonso, I know it took longer than you expected, but you asked some really important questions, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. That was the Alfonso for City Council. Great.
Just to touch up on some of the questions you asked Alfonso.
Yeah.
I mean, for me and a lot of other youth that I know, making us feel safe on campus will be replacing a lot of school police with intervention workers. So people that have been in jail and been through not graduating high school that can be there and tell us that they've been there, done that, and not to go that way. Instead of school police, people that have done school, did everything right, and they come to our community, criminalizing us for being late and stuff like that. Another thing that would help with truancy tickets is helping us with getting free metro bus passes because a lot of youth are late to school, like trying to walk to school or even find change around the house to get to school. So I think Free Metro West High School will be good.
Well,
for students.
that's interesting. So,
That's true.
is
that's
there,
true.
you got a problem with that? Some people agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go on. Let me hear your question. Go ahead.
And to follow up on Faubo's question, we would like to work with you to reconsider the gang injunction that we just filed in Echo Park this week. Since the 1980s, the gang injunctions have been a sort of like gentrification in our communities and stuff. And since the 1970s, there's been low level rates of violence and stuff. And Echo Park is getting their first injunction, and there's better ways to reduce violence, like with intervention and things like that, instead of more police and ways to bring our community down.
So, your first name again?
Tanisha.
Tanisha. So Tanisha asks a really important question too. And this is and she asked a question that's going to lead people in this room to disagree with each other a little bit. And I want to ask you about it broadly, okay? So Tanisha says there was a gang injunction put in place this week around Echo Park. Now, I'm not the city attorney yet. The current city attorney, Drew Tanich, put that injunction in place. Let's talk about gang injunctions for a second. Do you know what that means? So what happens is, in an area, it's important we understand each other. In an area, in a neighborhood where there's been a lot of gang activity, the city attorney, my predecessors, have gone to court to get a court order that says if you're a known gang member, you can't hang out with other known gang members in the neighborhood. If you do, you're going to be arrested, and just by virtue of hanging out together, and we're going to enforce the law. So Tanisha says, bad idea. Don't do that. Now I know there are a few things about gang injunctions we should talk about, because this is one of the issues that I do care about, and that is very much in the bullseye of what I would do as city attorney. There are neighborhoods around Los Angeles, including this one, where there are unacceptable levels of gang violence, right?
Yeah, it is.
Gang injunctions, the studies show, have helped to reduce, not everyone, but generally have helped to reduce gang violence and make some neighborhoods safer. On the other side, however, I had another one of these meetings I mentioned 2 days ago with someone who's a real expert on this who said, gang injunctions can work sometimes and they are beneficial in some cases, but they are a sign of failure. Because if you have to resort to a gang injunction, it means you haven't prevented kids from joining gangs in the first place.
Right.
And it means you haven't gotten enough jobs for teenagers who could be getting out of gangs and had an alternative.
Right.
And so, Tanisha, here's what I think. I may, as city attorney, once I'm in office, I may decide that there are neighborhoods that would benefit from a gang injunction because we cannot have the violence anymore. But I also I'm going to be a real leader in something else. We need to be working together to prevent kids from wanting to be in gangs in the first place.
Hello.
And we need to be able to work together to find alternative things for our teenagers in particular to do.
Right.
Especially as they get older. There's a friend of mine named Father Greg Boyle who runs an thing called Homeboy Industries. I don't know if you know who Father Greg is or not. I wish I still had it, but it's too old now. I had a t-shirt that I got from him. And a t-shirt says, nothing stops a bullet like a job.
That's right.
There's something about that, Tanisha, that I think is true. So we agree a little bit. I don't think any of us wants gang violence in a community. We disagree a little bit about whether a gang injunction is ever a good idea. I don't know if Echo Park was a good idea or not. There are some places where I think it's been a good idea. But I bet we agree that we should all be working together to find things for our youth to be engaged in so a gang is not their first choice. Is that fair? Okay.
One last thing I want to ask.
One last thing? That was okay, go ahead.
Senate Bill 458 is requiring people to notify youth that are being put on the database and their parents that are being put on the database. Is this something that you would support?
I don't know the bill at all. Let me look at the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanisha. So I think because we are running out of time, we're going to take 3 questions at a time.
Tanisha, I might. Now that I saw where the thing is possible, let me look at it more. This is Rod Wright's bill, right?
I'll keep in contact with you.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And by the way, that's the point of my being here. We need to keep in contact with each other. You know, that's the goal. So thank you for the question, teacher. Go ahead.
So I think what we'll do is take 3 questions at a time, and then in your responses try to.
I will try to be. I'll try to be briefer, but these are actually some of these questions go to the heart of what it means to be a community. So go ahead.
Yes. So Tyra, if we take 3 questions, and then we'll take some of our rating questions that haven't been hit, but many of the questions on the index cards have been included. But we'll get to these after we read these 3 questions.
My name is Latrice Bradley, and I work with the youth and adults at MJB Transitional Recovery in South LA. MJB provides substance abuse, prevention, and treatment services. We work with other providers in South LA and conducted an assessment with LA County's Department of Public Health. The data shows that 52% of youth knew of a liquor store that sold alcohol to underage youth. The business practice would not be acceptable in other neighborhoods. The city does very little to hold nuisance business owners accountable in South LA. Instead, the city invests a lot of money in arresting youth and adults who have addiction to alcohol and other drugs. I would like to hear your thoughts on how your office can hold alcohol outlets accountable for breaking the law and support prevention efforts in our neighborhoods.
Good. So really, I'll say really quickly, let me answer the question. So I think that it's really important. One thing you said, and Marquise said something about this earlier too. If a law is going to be enforced in one part of our city, it should be enforced in all parts of our city. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that selling alcohol to minors is not a small deal in a community where kids can get out of control if they have alcohol too easily. And the third thing I'll say is, you asked about alcohol prevention programs and that kind of thing. You know, I don't have a lot of jurisdiction, a lot of authority to make those programs start, but I want to explore ways to be involved in them because I think that it's much less expensive for us, by the way, to prevent something from happening than it is to enforce a law after the fact. But you're gonna see me do my best to enforce laws equally in every part of the city. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Suck. I have an essay too, but I'll make it short.
That's okay.
Invest in youth development over youth incarceration in LA. We would like for the city's attorney's office to give us 1% of their budget to be given toward the establishment of youth development department and the reprioritization of youth jobs. Youth centers and community intervention workers over incarceration.
Thank you. So let me say, you're going to find me working on prevention programs that you care about. Capri, I mentioned, used to be in the city attorney's office, might be coming back. I can just tell you, I can't give you any of my money. the budget's been cut. We can work together anyway. Okay?
Be clear, Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, my name is Pamela Walls, member of Community Coalition, and I live in South Los Angeles where there are many nuisance businesses that have come up, such as Recycling Center, where they sell drugs. Also, they rip you off from your money. If you're supposed to get 20, you might get 10. You might get 15. We have a hotel that the manager and owner looks the other way when drugs are being sold in that hotel. And also prostitution is allowed in that hotel. This is right across the street from where I live. Also, we have that same hotel that is right across the street from where I live in an apartment building is infested with bed bugs. There are 2 hotels, the Feuer and Townhall, which are notorious for drug sales and prostitution, and also human trafficking. I would like to know what you intend to do when you get into office about this problem that is hitting our community so hard.
What's the name of the hotel?
And Denmark.
In Denmark.
Okay. So this is the reason these problems you just mentioned are the reasons why I want to revitalize this neighborhood prosecutor program around the city, because these are the kinds of problems that can be addressed if we know they exist. And we know they exist if we have folks from my office in a neighborhood. Now, I can't do that in every neighborhood all at once because it's a huge city and the budget I operate under has been slashed. But this is the very kind of thing I want to focus on, because as opposed to other issues, if we were to clean up the things you mentioned, it would really count in the community and make a big difference. So I can't talk about these particular hotels, I don't know anything about them, but I can tell you that the kinds of problems you're talking about are at the heart of what I mean when I say I want the city attorney to be connected to communities. So let's work together to expand that neighbor prosecutor program and go after problems like these. These are very much what the city attorney should be doing.
Yes, you can forget all about the names of the hotels and focus on prostitution and drug deals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that's right.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask a question from the audience, and we got several questions around police oversight. I think this one captures many of the sentiments that we got on the cards. It says, despite the assertions by police leadership and city officials about improvements in the police-community relations, Los Angeles City and LA County lead the nation in police killing of unarmed civilians, more than 200 since 2007. The district attorney's office is responsible for investigating and prosecuting police violence, but they also have to rely on the police to make all of their cases. Would you consider establishing a special prosecutor or at least a task force to address police shootings and excessive use of force?
The answer is the city attorney is the lawyer for the city. So I won't be able to establish in my office a program to prosecute police officers. One thing I can't defend the city, that's right. But here's what I can do, and I intend to work on this. I want to work with the police department to change policies and practices that give rise to problems in the first place, so we have fewer such incidents. That's one thing I can do. And I've already talked to the chief of police about that very thing. And I think you're going to see us working very closely together so we reduce or eliminate the kinds of problems that make a community uptight. So that's what I can do, and that's what I'm going to work on. Okay?
Excuse me, hi, my name is Jules Garcia, and I'm concerned with your AB 109 program. Right now it has become what you would call unconstitutional, because people are coming home thinking that, oh, AB 109, I get a relief from the parole system. But AB 109 probation officers are harsher than the parole agents. You are required to do a bunch of signing of conditions, and they use the signing to say, well, you can't get out of it because you signed. One of the issues here is the flash. The city can save money by informing people that they have a constitutional right to the flash. But according to AB 109, you waive your right when you sign your condition. So you're pre-signing the condition to sign your constitutional right away and not even know it.
Okay. So Jules is talking about a program that Governor Brown proposed and the legislature adopted a few years ago called AB 109. The idea is that the state prison system is overcrowded, and federal judges run the state prison system. So Governor Brown and others, and I voted to support this along with most of the legislature, decided that the worst thing that could happen is to have judges say your prisons are overcrowded, we're letting felons who are dangerous out. That would have been a bad thing. So instead, the program says that in the future, and the future is now, offenders who commit what are called non-serious, non-violent, non-sexual offenses will be prosecuted, and they'll serve their time in county jails rather than in state prison. That's the law that Jules referred to a moment ago. And then they're supervised by county probation as opposed to parole. So Jules' point is that he thinks that the probation officers are harsher than they should be. I don't know about that. I'm not sure what the answer to that is. This is not something that I have authority over, I should tell you.
You're saying you're saving money for the city to use it in more beneficial ways.
Yeah, well I'm saying yes, the AB 109 idea was so the state could save some money and avoid having to let people out of prison who weren't ready to be released, and instead they moved to this method instead. But as I say, as a city attorney, unlike the other questions today, this is a question I can't answer. I don't have any authority to change the probation structure or any stuff.
I'm not trying to get you to change, but you said you communicated with those who were in those areas.
Yes, I see. You want to communicate this issue? I got it. I got it.
Because see, the flash is what I'm saying. You would have someone go to jail for 3 or 4 days, or even 10,
yes,
and they have no due process. They're
correct,
just sitting there.
That's right.
Well, that's eating up state city money. When they could have a due process, and we could find out, oh, they don't need a flash.
Okay, so really fast. When Jules says a flash, here's what he means. If you're on probation and you violate the conditions of your probation, you have one of two things can happen to you. Law enforcement can say, we're going to attend you to court and perhaps have you go back to jail for a long time. Or instead of sending you to court to have a court decide that, you can be subjected to what's called a flash incarceration. And that means for a few days, up to 10 days I think, you can be put in jail without a hearing if you violated those conditions. And Jules is concerned about that. Now, the reason I think that flash incarceration is used is to try to avoid having someone go to prison or jail for a longer period of time for a violation because they have a family, they have a job, whatever it might be. Your concern is too harsh.
We want to make sure everybody has enough time because we're running out of time.
I got it.
It's a really
But
long
Jules, if you want me,
time.
I talk to the DA all the time, and I can talk about this issue if you like.
Okay, and also, briefly, there are 2 cars blocking cars that need to leave in the back lot, a Lexus RX and a Lincoln Town car. Those are your cars, you're blocking someone that needs to leave, if you could move your car. So quickly, I'm also going to ask a question and then allow the next question. We have a few questions regarding the city's ban on hiring people who have felony convictions. And many of the questions speak to your role as general counsel for the city. And many people who work on that issue, the reason why the city continues to have that ban is their analysis of the legal liability. And so folks would like to hear your thoughts on banning the box or lifting that ban on hiring for the city.
So I've heard, the mayor-elect talk about this issue, and he has said he would like to ban the box, right? He wants to get rid of that piece of the form. Well, I have not had any chance to analyze that yet at all, but I do know this, that we need to be finding ways for people who have paid their debt to society to have a job, right? If they can't get a job, if they can't get a job, and they need to eat, what's going to happen, right? There's a cycle of crime that follows that. So I haven't analyzed the issue yet. I haven't talked to Eric, to the mayor-elect, about that yet. But I think it's an important issue. I just can't be specific yet. I'm not sure.
Hi, how are you? My name is Stephanie Perez, and I'm a human rights defender and organizer. Now, protest is core to my work as a human rights defender and organizer, and has been core to the struggle for human rights and for equality in this country and this world. Your predecessor, Conrad Jutanich, has been very aggressive in prosecuting human rights defenders and escalating charges against civil disobedience. The case of Deborah Burton is one such case. Debbie is a downtown resident, and she's a human rights defender and organizer for LA Can. She is being charged with assault with a deadly weapon for blowing a toy air horn in the air at a legal protest. The charges were filed 14 months after the incident, after the protest. And in the interim, we found documents under Freedom of Information Act request that showed that the city attorney's office was collaborating with the Central Police Division and the CCEA to try to bring forth some charges against one of the organizers or against LA Can. So my question is specifically, one, we would like to submit these letters to you that come from multiple organizations and from residents from across the city who are asking that you investigate these charges and that you also hold the trial start date, which is next Wednesday, and look into dropping the charges altogether. And second, I want to know, if, as city attorney, you're going to continue the same aggressive prosecution of human rights defenders and organizers. And by the way, this is Deborah Burton.
Hi, nice to meet you. So the answer to the first question is, I can do nothing about a trial next week. I'm not in office until July 1st. But the one important question you'll ask in many ways is, what's my philosophy of this issue? And I think people who engage in peaceful civil disobedience should be dealt with very differently than people who actually commit an assault in the course of protesting. There are people who do that, and they should be prosecuted. The people who engage in peaceful civil disobedience are people who should be dealt with in a much different way. And while there's a violation, if there's a way to deal with those violations, that isn't punitive and harsh. I'd like to try to work with organizations that are engaged in peaceful acts of civil disobedience so that civil disobedience can occur, there is an orderly way to deal with it, and we are not unduly punitive. If people don't engage in those practices in good faith, and if they violate the law in a serious way and engage in assault, I have a very different view of that. But I think that civil disobedience is part of who we are as a country. Fair enough? Okay, thank you.
So we are running out of time, and so what I would like the folks to do in the line is formulate your question in about 25 to 30 seconds. So while you get your thoughts together, I'm going to read a couple of the cards. And what we would like to do is have about 3 people ask questions, and then if you could address them all. So another question, and we got a couple of these, is regarding the Safer Cities initiative in downtown Los Angeles. Which was supposed to be a 6-month pilot that started in 2006 that continues. And what residents in the Skid Row area has found is that it's used to both racially profile individuals and has a disproportionate impact on the working poor and working class people and homeless people. And many times those folks are given infractions that they aren't able to pay, which then amount to warrants and often jail sentences. And so we have a few people who would like to know whether you will continue the Safer Cities initiative.
Very good. So the Safer Cities initiative relies on police and then the city attorney's office to prosecute when there are offenses. I want to bring the stakeholders together downtown in particular to see what we should be doing next. Because one thing you didn't mention is this, that it used to be that those offenses were dealt with in groups in courts, and now they're handled one at a time. So it's overwhelming the courts too at the same time. I do think it's important for us to make each community safe. And by the way, if the principle is every neighborhood should have laws enforced in a similar way, folks downtown would say that includes us, right? So what I want to do, there are people who really disagree about this issue. There are people who live downtown, have businesses downtown, who work downtown, who say this has made their community safer. There are people who advocate, especially for homeless residents of downtown, who say it's not fair to them. I need to intervene in this and bring people together and see if there's common ground. That's what I intend to do.
And so we get the next 3 questions and then responses. I think we can get to everyone.
Hello, my name is Hamid Khan with the Stop LAPD Spine Coalition. So there's a lot of conversation these days about the NSA trafficking with people's phones and the internet and Facebook and everything else. But a lot of people don't know that LAPD is very much engaged in the same activity on a local level for the last 5 years. We have documented where LAPD has already opened up 5,000 files based on suspicious activity reporting, criminalizing basic everyday behavior. Like if you're taking a photograph in public, using binoculars, using video camera, that's considered suspicious activity. And here's the kicker, and I'll stop right there. That through Public Records Act, we have found, and through the Inspector General's report, that there's 82% of those whom these files have been opened up are non-whites. And out of that, the largest number of folks are African Americans. The other Sentinel, the largest newspaper in this community, has written 3 op-eds that they're trampling on their civil rights. The South Central Neighborhood Council has voted unanimously demanding that LAPD rescind these policies. So my question is, would you be looking into these policies which fundamentally violate people's civil liberties, which are constitutional violations, and they are an invasion of privacy?
Hello.
That's
right. Yes. Please. I'm about to crack up. Please. I'm serious.
This is, obviously, I haven't had a chance to look into this at all. I appreciate the information.
Yeah, look into something.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jasmine with
Look
the Youth
into
Justice Coalition. The Youth Justice Coalition took over an abandoned library and cleaned it up for the community. And within half an hour, a $15,000 helicopter and more than 20 squad cars were at the scene. Why not work with the community to reclaim abandoned property and spaces to create youth centers, parks, and playgrounds?
Hello. Hello. All right, girl.
I'm Eric Rhodes, small business owner in Los Angeles. And
give me one.
you guys are starting to like put bread, make it so you can't park in front of the businesses. Now, we're business owners that have been striving while the community or while America was in a recession, and now that we're coming out this recession, it's like you guys are going to put these small businesses in a recession personally by creating these, not stopping nowhere on Western or other different streets like that.
Okay, so I can't deal with red curbing, that's not my authority. Your city council member can, however.
Well,
so,
I spoke with them as well.
And what was the answer? Because
well, they directed us to DOT, and I spoke with DOT, and this lady has never even been in the community, and she said this is the right thing for the community.
All right, I would say go back to your council member with that information, because I think that, again, I'm never going to tell you conditionally when I can't. The city attorney isn't going to change the painting of a curve, but a city councilman working with DOT could, and that's all I can tell you, and that's the place to go.
It's not just the painting of the curve. It's basically the people that we hire is from the community, so it's basically a community issue at this point.
Right.
It's not just a curve or a street issue.
Yes.
It's more than that because the people that we hire is from the community, and that goes back to if these people don't have jobs, what are they going to do?
I agree. Is your council member Parks or Repairing? Parks. Okay. That's the place to go, I think, to resolve your question. I wish I could be more specific, but that's it.
So you want to address the first two questions and then we'll take another one?
Yeah, I thought I did actually. With regard to the allegations of police spying, as I said, this is not something of which I have any background at all. And obviously, as I learn more, I'll find out more information. As far as the question about taking over abandoned properties and cleaning them up, certainly that sounds like a good thing to do. The city attorney's office, as far as I know, is not in get engaged in enforcement of those questions. If it does, I'll find out more and address it. We should be trying to improve our communities. All of us should. I just don't have any more specific to say.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one of these questions again to people in line, 30 seconds, and then we can get to everyone. So we have a couple questions about the enforcement of Proposition D and closing and regulation of medical marijuana dispensaries. Yes, just your thoughts on that. We have several of those.
Sure. Okay, Measure D. Most people here probably voted for Measure D because it won by a big amount. What Measure D does is it attempts to strike a balance, and here's my philosophy on medical marijuana, just so you know. People who are sick with cancer and other serious illnesses and need access to medical marijuana to alleviate their suffering should have access to it. But at the same time, there are too many dispensaries in town. They're too close to each other, they're too close to schools and playgrounds, they don't pay enough taxes, and so on. So what Measure D says is, we're going to dramatically reduce the number of dispensaries while still allowing about 135 or 40 to stay in effect. And then we're going to enforce rules about them so that they are less close to schools and playgrounds and to each other. And other things too. I'm not in office yet. Medical marijuana's Measure D is going to be having to be enforced after I'm in office. What I want to do is work with the dispensaries that are allowed to assure they're operating properly. And then we have to work together with each other to identify the dispensaries that are not allowed because they shouldn't be allowed to operate. And that's what I want to do.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Collins, and I'm here on behalf of my mom. She is an adjacent homeowner, and there's some Western apartments that are being built right now. And the homeowners, their rights have been waived. She's very sick right now due to this construction site. There are toxic fumes and everything just floating around in the air. And a lot of things were promised to the homeowners, and today nothing has been fulfilled. And we are tired of the disrespect, and I don't want her condition to get worse, but they understood what they needed to do prior to building it, and nothing has been done. And she's suffering with it. She has an upper respiratory problem. I was at UCLA with her today. So I want to address what can be done.
Yeah, so here's what I think should happen. I think the Department of Building and Safety should be contacted to see if there's any violations of codes right there. And you can do that either by calling them directly, you can dial 311 to get that to happen, or your city councilman. Okay? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sine Green. I'm representative of Church of Scientology in Inglewood, and we also have a community center across the street. But my question to you is, do you have any plans to work with the city and how our youth is educated and to come up with solutions to the high number of high school dropout rates and the high number of our youth being placed in special education and put on psychiatric medications and labeled attention deficit disorder?
Okay, so regarding public education, quickly, I want to do the following things. As I mentioned earlier, I want to address truancy issues. I want to do what we can to make sure the paths to schools are safer. I will not be able to address special education in schools. That's beyond the scope of my authority. But I think it's really important to work together to identify ways for our youth to be constructively engaged, especially after school. So that's what I can do with CHP.
Hi, Mike. Paul Dumont with the Silver Living Network. I want to say congratulations first. We're early supporters of your candidacy. And I've been working for the past 5 years with the Silver Living Network, Community Coalition, and over 200 organizations that have been opposing the community care facilities ordinance. Many of those groups spoke before me, some of the residents spoke. Essentially, it eliminates shared housing in the city of Los Angeles by declaring any type of group living arrangements as boarding houses. I heard you speak on the radio about this issue before, and you had some concerns. Several organizations are against it. We can't really litigate this matter here in this room, but I would like your commitment to meet with our organization, the Silver Living Network, when the time is right and we get settled, and perhaps with some other members, the United Way Community Coalition, and some of us to sit down and find, because there is a problem with nuisance group homes, but the community care facilities ordinance is not that solution, and we have some ideas that we want to share with your office.
I'm interested in hearing the ideas to be shared with us. Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
How are you?
Hi.
First of all, I want to say the Heat are up by 2. 62-60 in the third. Everybody wants to. My name is David Mitchell, and I started a nonprofit called Prodigal Son Gang and Drug Prevention Foundation. I believe we have to go out to the community and we have to talk to the kids. I'd love to see, the reason why I'm here is because I put it on an event, and I needed to get someone from the LA Gang Prevention and drug prevention. So I got on the internet and I found Sharon Blackburn, who invited me here. Never been to a town meeting. My question is to you is, would you be willing to send your police officers and your drug prevention people out into the community, set up, do events in the parks and stuff like that, so they can pass out information and not just ride by in their cars, get out in the community, talk to the people, especially the kids I'm passionate about, and establish relationships with these people.
It's a great point. So let me be clear. I don't control the police department, but I can do this. I think it's really important for people in city government to be in communities, and you talk about drug prevention and gang violence prevention. This is where we should be putting our resources, as opposed to waiting until someone's committed a crime and then trying to arrest and incarcerate them. If we can prevent it in the first place, it's better for everybody. And that's where our priority should be. Good. All right. Thanks very much. And by the way, I recognize that the most important public service tonight was you're telling people to score the ball game.
So we are doing pretty good on time. If you'd like to just do a few closing remarks.
Oh, I will be extremely brief. What a great conversation, And that's the thing. It was a conversation. One thing I hope to do as city attorney is always be talking with you and not talking at you. That's why I was asking, Tanisha questions and so forth. We need to be a team in this. I have to learn about where the priorities are, and we're going to agree on a lot of things. We may disagree from time to time. That's okay, because we're all committed to the same thing. We can improve our community if we work together. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. You guys are wonderful. The folks in the overflow room are incredible. And I enjoyed this so much. I hope you'll have me back again. Thanks very much.
All right, let's give another big round of applause to our City Attorney-elect, Mike Feuer. And they have me down for closing remarks, and my closing remarks are, if you get to your car fast, you can catch the fourth quarter. The game is tied.
Oh, Lord.
And there's food in the hallway.
The game is tied.